Hey babe, how are you doing? I hope you made it through the weekend okay. Welcome to another episode of Between Me and the Ink. Today I want to talk about a book that I read a very long time ago, and it's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. I think this is one of the first non-fiction books that I got into when I was transitioning from only reading fiction to now only reading non-fiction, which is very weird. But yeah, so Maybe You Should Talk to Someone is a memoir. It's written by Gottlieb. She's a therapist, and the perspective that she was giving in this book was not just as a therapist, but also as a patient, because she also went through some shit that she ended up having to go through therapy. So generally, the book is not just about how transformative therapy can be, but it's also about understanding yourself and understanding other people and essentially just figuring life out. I have about 8 lessons that were my takeaways from this book, and I'm going to share them with you just now. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Faye, and thank you so much for stopping by. Lesson number 1 is that the presenting problem, which is the issue that takes you to therapy, is just one aspect of a larger problem that you're dealing with. This means that if you're in therapy because maybe you're struggling with the end of a relationship, the problem is not that the relationship has ended. Like there's a reason as to why you're struggling. I remember the first time I went to therapy, I thought I was there because I was struggling with the relationship that I was in. Instead of being objective about the situation, I think I was just blaming myself for the most part. Like I was very aware that I have a lot of traumas and relational traumas mostly. Relational traumas are very tricky because when you're on your own, you don't experience them because no one is there to trigger your shit. But the minute you get into a relationship, all these things start coming up and you realize, oh wow, okay, that seems like a me problem because it happens in every relationship that I'm in, right? So I went to deal with my relational traumas, but I ended up dealing with so much shit that was not why I was there. So yeah, every time I feel like I need to go to therapy, I am now aware that whatever is eating at me in that particular moment is just a symptom, and I expect to uncover more shit when I sit on that chair. Lesson number 2. The future will not happen later. You are creating it now in your mind. This means that whatever you will be in the future, you're creating that person right now with your thoughts and your actions. So there is no separation between who you are now, who you will be in the future. So if you want to be different in the future, you have to start being different now. Lesson number 3 is that the big changes that you seek are actually a result of many tiny changes that you make along the way. This relates to the second point because there's this idea that for you to change, you have to do a 180. But when you do a 180, it's not just one aspect of your life that you're changing, and that is where the problem comes in. Every time you need to make a big change, you need to start with small changes that will get you to that big change. Don't expect a complete overhaul. And this happens in every aspect of your life. Big changes don't work. There's too much friction, there's too much resistance, there's too many opportunities for failure. Whenever you can, seek out the tiny changes that you can make. Lesson number 4. In order to know yourself, you must let go of the many limiting stories that you tell yourself about yourself so that you can live authentically instead of following a flawed script. And for me, this means that you cannot say that you know yourself and that it's set in stone. You need to allow yourself to feel things and to decide in the moment, because limiting yourself because this is how you should act or this is how you should feel, that takes away from your authenticity as a person. Like you're just living according to a narrative that you picked up from, I don't know, your friends or your family or even your teachers or even your therapist. Like sometimes the influences can become very limited. People's opinions and expectations of us can sit on us to the point that we stop being our true selves. Lesson number 5, silence is the only time you can hear yourself. I've always preferred silence because noise can be very overwhelming for me. Like when there's too many people talking, when there's even music sometimes, it feels very overbearing because my mind will not shut up. Now, you can imagine there's music or there's people talking and my mind is also trying to like get me to pay attention. It becomes a lot very fast. That's why I prefer silence most of the time. But there are so many people who cannot stand silence. I remember I did a post. It was not a serious post, and yet it got me really thinking about this. Many people were saying that they cannot stand silence. And at first, it was shocking for me, like, wow, you guys, like, wow. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, well, yeah. Most people are escapists. That need for a distraction all the time, I guess it makes sense. It is not healthy. It is actually very dangerous, but it makes sense. So anytime you feel like you need to listen to yourself, try silence, even if it's in small doses, because you need to hear yourself at one point or another. Yeah. Point number 6, as long as you're an adult, you're responsible for your choices. And this was important because I had this habit of self-victimization where someone would do something that hurts me and I would just feel bad, I would cry, and then that would be it. I feel like the people in my life were getting away with so much shit because I would just label them as terrible people, and then I just let them continue existing in my life, in my space. And then I went for this therapy session where the therapist asked me, okay, yeah, they did this and you felt this, but what did you do about it? And I was like, what was I supposed to do? What could I have done? And then she didn't even respond. She just looked at me and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm a grown up. Like I am choosing to be in this situation. I am choosing to indulge this person. I'm choosing to let them think that they can get away with treating me like this. I think I spent the rest of that therapy session just crying because I realized how responsible I was for all the times that people have done me wrong and I didn't respond or I didn't react, and maybe they thought they could get away with treating me like that. So yes, even in situations where you are the victim, like genuinely someone has done something bad to you, you still have a choice when it comes to how you're going to respond to that bullshit. Like, don't just sit there wallowing, being a baby, when you can choose to walk away. You can cut them off. You can retaliate. Don't get comfortable in playing the victim role. You have a lot of agency. Point number 7. You cannot have change without loss. And this is one of the reasons why people rarely change, because the idea of change will appeal to you, but the practice of it will come with a feeling of you have to give something up. Like if you want to change your health, you want to become healthier, there are things you have to give up. If you want to become successful in a given project, there are sacrifices you have to make. Every change that you seek out comes with some loss. So the first step when you're deciding that you want to make a change in your life is to determine what you're going to have to sacrifice and make peace with that. So again, you can't have change without loss. Preparing for the loss and how you're going to cope gives you some emotional resilience, which will go a long way when it comes to enforcing the change and sticking to it and achieving your goals. Okay. Lesson number 8. Everyone has defense mechanisms that they use to avoid the truth. This is a bit heavy because a while back I had to confront someone over something so trivial, and their reaction was shocking. I am still flawed by that interaction, to be honest. But the thing is, sometimes your defense mechanisms are so strong and so automated that you take them too far. And sometimes the truth is harsh, sometimes the truth is very unpleasant to encounter, but you need to get to a point where you are aware when you're deflecting, when you're trying to avoid the truth so that you don't take it too far. Like, just sit in your shame. It's fine. Like, yeah, I was being defensive in that moment. I responded defensively and I feel bad about it, but at least I didn't take it too far, you know? Every time you're faced with a truth that you don't want to deal with, just be aware. To be honest, just be aware, because everyone has defense mechanisms. Some people have worked hard to the point that they are willing to deal with unpleasant truths on the spot, but most of us need time. I need time to feel shitty about it. I need time to look for evidence that you're actually telling me the truth, because when you're telling me about me, first of all, you don't know me like that unless you do. And for the most part, your people know you like that, but it needs time for you to actually accept it. And you can only give yourself grace if you are aware that your defense mechanisms are at play. Also, don't take it personal when you tell someone some truth and they get defensive. It is not about you. That is their shit. Okay? Anyway, my thoughts about this book is that it's a very interesting read. You expect it to be very clinical and very cutthroat, but there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of grace, a lot of compassion in the way the book is written. It reads as both fiction and nonfiction, and yet it is purely nonfiction because these are real experiences, these are real people, and it's very relatable basically. And sometimes the relatability is very eye-opening. It gives you practical insights into your own experiences, your own issues, all while encouraging to see a therapist, right? So if you have a chance, pick it up, read it. Let me know what you think about it. And yeah, go forth and be good. Otherwise, have a lovely week. Let's talk again on Monday, okay? Bye, babe.